If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 214 of the Yapping Yankees podcast, where we yap about the Yanks and nothing but those Yanks. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, here on the 24th day of March in the year 2024 as we bring the opening day countdown number to 4. Hell yes. 4 days until opening day, guys. It does not even feel real. I cannot believe spring training is already nearly over. It's basically over. Tomorrow's the last day. This has got to be, actually, one of the faster years of spring training that I've ever experienced. Usually, spring training, even though it's very exciting at the beginning because you're just getting baseball back and the excitement's just at an all-time high every single year, it just usually drags after that. Once you hit that threshold that I always talk about when you're just like, you know what? I'm ready for games to freaking count already. And I crossed that about a week to a week and a half ago. I arrived at that point. But it has still continued to go really fast, and now I just cannot believe that in about a half a week, just 4 days, games will count. I'm so happy, guys. I do hope you are all doing well here on this Palm Sunday. It is Palm Sunday today. I've actually spoken to a few people today who actually forget that it even was Palm Sunday. But not everybody's religious, first of all, so that's one thing. But also, I guess, people are just more focused on Easter Sunday, which, of course, is next Sunday, which actually brings me to my next point. Just want to remind you guys, I will not be doing a show next Sunday. Now, this does suck because the timing of it just did not line up well this year. This is usually not how it happened in all years past, but just because of when Easter is on the calendar this year and when it all lined up, unfortunately, it was the imperfect alignment, if you will, because I definitely do not want to take off next weekend because it's opening weekend. The timing of it is just horrible. But I've also never done an episode on Easter Sunday because it is one of the bigger holidays throughout the entire year. I'm usually always busy during it or just spending time with family, and it's a Sunday that I like to take off. And I'll be doing the same thing next week. Just the only difference is that this year in particular, that sucks because it just so happens to be opening weekend. So that absolutely sucks. Absolutely sucks. But it's just the way it lined up. So when I do come back to you in 2 Sundays from now, which should be April 7th, if I'm not mistaken, I will have quite a bit of content to catch up with you guys on because I'll have about a week and a half's worth of regular season games to catch up with the first weekly recap of 2024. That's right, that segment will finally be back in full force. And just a lot to catch up on from opening day all the way to then. Quite a few games will have passed already, especially because the Yankees schedule, again, for those who do not know this or have not seen this when it comes to the start of the Yankees schedule, the Yankees actually start the season without a single day off until Thursday the 4th, which is very rare. Because especially when the Yankees typically start at home, which has happened a lot the past bunch of years, obviously, but typically it's the first game of the year, then you get a day off. It's usually like a Thursday you start, then you get off on the Friday, and then you play Saturday, Sunday. So you usually have a day off like right away, and that's still the case with a lot of teams around baseball, but for the Yankees, they're just playing 4 straight. Thursday through to Sunday to start in Houston, as we know. And they go right to Arizona to play 3 in a row, Monday through Wednesday. And then they have the Thursday off on the 4th. And they come home for the home opener on Friday the 5th against the Blue Jays. So it's kind of crazy, just starting right away. So no days off until the Thursday. Only 1 day off from when the regular season starts until the next time I talk to you. So pretty crazy the way that starts off. Not wild to play 7 games in a row. It's not unusual. The schedule usually has much longer bouts of no days off, typically throughout certain parts of certain seasons. It's not highly unusual. It's just unusual to start the season because most of the time there is that day off after the first game, usually, but not the case for the Yankees this year, in case you did not already know that. But in any event, yes, it absolutely stinks, but for opening weekend, next Sunday, I will not be giving you an episode because it is Easter Sunday. So the following Sunday, the 7th, just as a reminder, I've said this in, I think it was last episode or last couple of weeks in a row, but just wanted to remind you there will be no Yapping Yankees next Sunday on Easter. So a very happy Easter to all of you out there ahead of time. Just so I don't forget later on in the show, because that's highly likely because my brain is most of the time scrambled eggs. So just to avoid any and all risk of forgetting to wish you all a very happy Easter, I'll get that over with right away. Now, let's get into it, because again, like I said before, opening day, can't believe it, opening day is just around the corner in 4 little days.
Holy crap!
Yep, that warrants a holy crap from Frank Barone, for sure. But I just can't believe it's so close, guys. I really can't. And the closer we get, the more changes continue to happen with the roster, the more it shrinks down, the more we get to have that final idea of what the final roster is going to be. It'll inevitably be announced within the next couple of days, especially because, again, the real last day of spring training for the Yankees is pretty much tomorrow when they have their 3rd split squad day in a row. Like we spoke about last week, multiple split squads in a row, mainly thanks to the Yankees having their 2 games in New Mexico against the Diablos Rojos. I'm Italian, and I think I nailed that pronunciation, so good job to me, damn it. But they played the first one today. And obviously a very polarizing figure took part in the game. And I've been asked by a couple of people, not many, but I've been asked by a couple of people why I haven't spoken about him more on this show. And to be quite honest with you, it's just, or why I haven't wanted him on the Yankees. Not that I don't want to talk about him, but I don't want to talk about him, if that makes sense. But listen, I don't want to dodge the subject. Obviously, it's very touchy. It has to do with potential non-consensual sexual relations and whatnot. I mean, I'm just not here to talk about that sort of thing. It's a lot of people feel very strongly about this, and usually when you discuss a topic that is very touch and go, and you're always going to get somebody disagreeing with you, hell, you're going to get somebody to disagree with you no matter what you talk about in this world, so I'm ready for that. But I obviously have not seen physical evidence of much of anything in this case. I don't think it's even been released to the public specifically. If I get the number correctly, I think there are 5 women in question here in this case, and there are people on one side saying that the guy in question here is innocent and the women are full of crap, and then there's another side saying that you can't dismiss that and that nothing's been released to the public, so nobody's seen anything yet unless you're within the case, and saying that the women are telling the truth and this guy's a monster. As long as I haven't really seen anything for myself, I don't really have the right to have an opinion on it. Obviously, if there was non-consensual things going on here, obviously that's completely wrong. Obviously. But when it comes to who I think is right and who I think is wrong without having seen anything or reading up on it too much, I gotta feign ignorance a little bit on this one because I don't want to be out here accusing anyone of something, whether it be the women or the guy in question here. You know who the guy is. I don't know why I'm being secretive. It's Trevor Bauer. But I just don't really have a right to have an opinion when I don't know all the facts about this. I know a decent amount of facts, but not all the facts. And obviously I haven't seen any film, nor do I really want to. I'm not really interested. I just got to be honest with you. It's not really much of my business. Obviously, if he did anything wrong here, then I think that speaks for itself. I don't think he should have much to do with this sport. And he should probably be serving a very, very long suspension because it is horrible. But if he is in fact innocent in all of this, and I hope they prove that he is too. Hope so. I don't really, that's kind of where I stand. So call my stand a little bit indifferent, but that's the only stand I deem appropriate as long as I don't necessarily have every single fact, and I haven't seen these clips in question with my own eyes. So if you get offended at my stance with this, well, I'm sorry, but you don't have to listen to me. That's your choice. So you can tune me out if you want. I don't really mind. That's your choice. But regardless, it was very interesting because in this game, the only reason I got into all that was because the Yankees actually faced him today. Because Bauer is pitching for this New Mexico team the Yankees took on today, and he started against the Yankees. He didn't look great, but he wasn't bad either, of course, because at the end of the day, he didn't allow a run. But he got into quite a bit of jams, gave up a good amount of hits, especially for the amount of innings he pitched, and also walked a couple of guys, and didn't really look as sharp as I think some were expecting. He did strike out 3 guys, so that's good, but 4 hits, 2 walks in 3 innings. Nothing fantastic, but I think it was in the second inning when, speaking about one of those jams, he was in a bad jam in the second when there was bases loaded and 2 outs, and he got Anthony Volpe to swing at a really bad breaking ball low and away to strike him out and escape the jam. So good on him. He got out of trouble. And then he got into some more trouble in the third inning, but then he was able to wiggle out of that as well. Gave up a walk in the first. So no clean innings by a long shot, especially in the second and third innings, but he got out of it scoreless. So in that case, he did pretty well. And they managed to keep the Yankees off the board in this game until the 9th inning. All the way at the end until Carlos Narvaez got a 2-run double driving home Jared Serna and Greg Allen, and then Cole Gabrielson hit an RBI double himself driving home Narvaez to bring the game to 4-3, and that was the score that New Mexico won by. Now, try not to take this too seriously because not every Yankee, as a matter of fact, a ton of the big guys did not make this trip to New Mexico for today's game as well as tomorrow's game because they're playing 2. Tomorrow's game will be at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Today's was at 4. It finished not too long ago at the time I'm taping. I'm taping in like the mid to late 6 o'clock hour right now at this very moment. But yeah, so that was very polarizing today. Anytime Trevor Bauer is brought up, you're going to get both sides going at each other. One side vouching for his innocence, saying basically that the women are full of crap, I guess, and that the case is full of crap, and that he deserves to at least get a shot in Major League Baseball, with the Yankees or otherwise. I'm not too eager to jump at that myself because I don't think the Yankees need that sort of a distraction right now. And I know that some people would argue, oh, you'd just be giving him a shot and you'd be able to get him for very little and the potential to be really good. Well, there's no real proof that he would be really good against Major League talent right now after being away from Major League Baseball for so long. And yeah, the risk may be low, but there's a lot going on surrounding him right now. I'm not so sure I want that around the team right now. Call me a wuss if you want for saying that, but that's just my opinion. And it speaks volumes to me, too, that no other team has offered to really give him a shot either. There are claims that teams are talking to him, but you don't really see much actually happening in that area. And then the other side says that the guy's an absolute monster, and that he should be basically serving a very long or even possibly lifetime suspension, should never be allowed to pitch in this country ever again. You're going to get the extremes of both sides, probably nothing in the middle, except for me. But I'm the only one who, will admit when he doesn't have all the facts necessarily about something, be like, I think I should hold back from having much of a definitive opinion on this. But there was a lot of talk on social media today, all of which I stayed away from because I can't really add much to it. And obviously, it's pretty obvious where my stance would be if one side was proven over the other. If the guy's innocent, then I hope he's proven innocent. And if he's not, then obviously he deserves to be deeply punished because what he's being accused of is pretty severe. So, to say the least, I mean, that's just common sense. So that's that. That's what I have to add on it. But lots of craziness today because of that. But that was basically what happened with this first game in New Mexico. I guess I don't have to recap that later now. But nonetheless, some exciting times at the end of spring training here. A lot of games being played. Like I said before, 3 split squad games, or days rather, in a row. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Because tomorrow, they're going to have the game at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern in New Mexico again. And then they're also going to be having at 1:05 p.m. Eastern another game against the Mets at George M. Steinbrenner Field at 1:05. And then that's it for spring training, guys. Because Tuesday, the Yankees don't play any spring training game or any sort of a game. Wednesday, everybody's off the day before the start of the regular season. And Thursday, the Yankees are in Houston for opening day with Mr. Nestor Cortez on the mound against Framber Valdez. So there you go. I just can't believe it's that close already. Absolutely wild. Now, a lot, whether it be Yankees related or just Major League Baseball in general related, quite a bit did happen this past week, of which we are going to get to right now in news. Yankees news, mostly, obviously. hence the name of the podcast. But we'll get to that because there is a bit to talk about, particularly in the injury arena, unfortunately. Like always when it comes to the Yankees. Just absolute misery. I cannot do it anymore. But here I am, still doing it anyway. So we'll just keep pushing on, like we always do, because that's what we as the Yankee community do no matter how many injuries we are faced down with. Whether faced down in this particular case means confronted with or just crying into a pillow over it, whichever one happens to be you. Anyways, we can start off right from the start of the week if you'd like. That's what I prefer to do, chronological order and all that. So let us go back to Monday, which is really the first big piece of news, and it happens to be a follow-up to something we had briefly touched on in the prior episode of Yapping Yankees last Sunday on the 17th when it had just happened. I believe it was the day before, if I'm not mistaken. But Mr. DJ LeMahieu, not good news here. It's not the worst of news, but it is also not the best of news, especially considering the need for him to have a pretty good season this year, considering what the last 2 or 3 have contained, which is not much good at all. That's why 2024 has been a very important season for him to show that he's got anything at all left in the tank. But this is not a good start to it. And it sucks because it's unfortunately another one of those cases where it's basically out of his control because it's not just a part of his body like pulling a muscle when he's running down to first or something like that. It's just an outside factor that you really have no control over. And that happens to be what we spoke about last weekend when he fouled a ball off of his foot. Now, DJ has had his fair share of foot problems the last couple of years, whether it be the toe issue that ailed him for so long, and now you have this. So he just can't seem to get his feet under control. And it's going to continue, unfortunately, because they actually, after looking at it more in depth, realized that it was more significant of a bone bruise on his foot than they had originally thought. They thought that it was just like a bruise. But it turns out it was a pretty significant bone bruise. So, he could miss opening day as of now. And as of just before, despite also being reevaluated on the 21st, that's really when they noticed that it was a pretty significant bone bruise. They actually determined today that it was a long shot, and still is a long shot, that he plays on opening day. So the Yankees will probably have to start the season without DJ LeMahieu. How deep will they have to go into the season, whether it be a few days, a week, a few weeks, a month? Regardless of how deeply they have to go into 2024 without DJ, it's basically sounding like more or less a certainty as of right now that he is not going to be in the opening day lineup. So if that's the case, if he's been out already for this long, what I'd probably do, and if he's still not going to be in by opening day, that takes him till at least Friday, and he's already been out for days now, I would just put him on the injured list and have him just rest it up and then come back fully when he's ready. That's just what I'd do. Now, the problem with this is, what happens if DJ is not available to play third base on opening day? Well, the Yankees have basically insinuated that it's all but guaranteed that Oswaldo Cabrera is going to find himself down there. Now, are there worse options than Oswaldo? Yeah, there probably are. But Oswaldo is certainly also not the best. The one good thing about Oswaldo, I love the guy, especially as a person. He seems like the sweetest, most genuine guy out there. No problem there. But his one really good attribute is that he can play just about anywhere. And this sort of a thing right here, this sort of scenario, is exactly what he's designed to do. You have an injury at third, you have an injury at short, second, even first at times, or even the outfield in certain cases if it's big enough of an emergency. You can put him right there. And it's all good. But with the bat, especially the last couple of years, he did finish off nicely last year. And in 2022 showed a lot of promise. But the bat, especially most of the time it would seem in the last couple of years, leaves a lot to be desired. So I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you when it comes to seeing significant production off of Oswaldo's bat. But defense, you're going to get some pretty good gameplay and a whole lot of versatility. So that's the positive. So it's good that you have someone to just put right into there. But hopefully they can muster up some more options as far as infield depth. One of those, at least to start the season, is not going to be an option at least right away because ironically enough, on the very same day that this was reported on DJ earlier on in the week, It was also reported that Mr. Yorbeat Vivas was optioned to AAA. So Vivas obviously has more infield depth. He's at least starting the year in AAA, though, so that's not an option. So it really just seems like the guy for the infield depth at this point is going to be Oswaldo, and that's who you're going to be seeing at third base, at least to start opening day. So we'll see how long this thing with DJ takes. If it's a pretty significant bone bruise, I would obviously just put him on the injured list and let him ride it out, because there's no need to rush at the beginning of the year. I'm not saying that the beginning of the year is less value than the end, obviously. If you're in an intense playoff race towards the end, then the value definitely seems significantly increased. But at the end of the day, the first game of the year does have as much value as the last game, even if circumstances may be different. But Game 1, objectively, means the same as Game 94, for instance. It's just another one of 162. Just a matter of how important it is in the grand scheme of these certain circumstances. Hopefully that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. But anyways, we're going to have to see how long this takes with DJ. But I wouldn't rush it, because it's the beginning. But it's just highly frustrating, man, because I was saying that, yeah, at times in spring training he showed good promise, but I was not liking what he was showing at certain other times. And just when he was starting to look a little bit better, now he's got this foot problem after the foul ball. And yeah, I can't blame him, obviously, because it's just fouling a ball off your foot. You can't control where the ball goes when you hit it. I mean, it could go anywhere. It could go down. It could go a liner into the stands and almost kill somebody. Like, you have no control over these things. So I can't get mad at DJ himself, but I'm generally frustrated when it comes to discussing him, because I've been expecting 2024 to be a bounce back for him, and he's probably the biggest question mark out of anybody in the infield, given how his production has continually decreased within the last 3 years or so. Yes, the first thing I always have thrown at me was that, yeah, he finished 2023 well. Yes, he did. But the vast majority of the last 3 years, you have to be honest with yourself, has not been good and has been a steady decline for DJ, with injuries to go along with it, whether it be the toe prior or this now, which again is unfortunately out of his control. I'm not holding it against him, but it is keeping him off the field, and that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help the Yankees. It helps no one. That's my point. So it's unfortunate. We're going to have to see how friggin' long this takes now, as the injury saga just does not want to end. It just doesn't. What can I tell you? But speaking of the injury saga ending for some, seemingly at least as of now, got to make that highlighting important. Emphasize that. But on Wednesday, there was actually some good news, and that is that finally, penciled back into the lineup was Mr. Aaron Judge, and he has been back since then. So Judge is back, which puts him on a good pace, obviously, to be ready for opening day as well. And he even got, this past week, some looks in left field. So if Bro can figure out how to play an efficient left field, then he can play all three outfield positions, because we obviously know right field is his primary position. He plays a kick-ass center, and if he can learn to play left, then you can put the guy anywhere in the outfield if you want. Obviously left, because of the vastly different angle from center or right, especially right, it would obviously be a massive adjustment for him, but someone of Aaron Judge's talents, I wouldn't put it past him to be able to learn it. But could be interesting as another potential option for Aaron Boone if he has to put him out there on a particular day, if they want to DH Verdugo or give him a day off, or maybe put Judge in left and give Grisham some center field reps. So it depends. Maybe have Soto stick in right field, or maybe if Soto DHs on that particular day, then you could put Stanton out there in right. Like we spoke about a week or two ago. Somebody had mentioned in the social media segment. There are about a million different things that Aaron Boone could do when it comes to shifting around the outfield in 2024. Hopefully, which I'm not going to hold my breath, because Aaron Boone has never been one for consistency, or whoever it is that puts together the lineups or has input on it or whatnot. But hopefully they stick to at least a little bit more of a routine in 2024, because I've heard it straight from players' mouths, so it's not just hearsay or just guessing or assuming, but a lot of players like routine. They like to know what's going to be going on most of the time. So if you could get some sort of a routine going where you're not switching something up literally every single day, it might be better for the players that way. It's good for them to know what's going on a regular basis. Obviously, there's going to be changes sometimes. Guys need days off. Not always. Not nearly as much as the Yankees claim that people need days off. Meanwhile, they have the injury troubles they still do. But sometimes they'll need a day off here and there. Sometimes someone may be injured. Sometimes you just want to give somebody else some reps on a certain day. Depends. And the Yankees have a lot of options in the outfield. They did a very good job at establishing good outfield depth this winter, if nothing else. And they don't have the best of infield depth, at least to start, but they have a few options in the minor leagues. They do. So we'll see if they end up having to call on any of those options. But for now, it seems Oswaldo is the guy. So that seems to be the case as of now. It's going to be very interesting, though. Judge getting looks in left. We're going to see how things go. But he looks good. He looks healthy, looks ready to go. And that's really the main important thing. Like we spoke about last week, I was talking about how certain people were literally flipping out at the Yankees for being wrong about when he'd be penciled back into the lineup, when he'd be back out there doing batting practice, and then he wouldn't show like they said he would. And yeah, that's annoying. Obviously, that's annoying. But honestly, it just didn't matter. The only thing that should matter to everybody, like it did to me, is that Judge is ready for opening day when it counts. If he's not ready for a spring training game on Monday, but he is on Wednesday, who cares? As long as he is ready for opening day. And if taking 2 more days off does him good in helping him with whatever discomfort he's experiencing, then hell, take the next 2 days off. It's spring. Who gives a crap? And again, I'm not here to blame anybody for getting mad at the Yankees PR and their news updates about these injuries, because yes, when it comes to injuries, dealing with the Yankees is very irritating. So I'm not crapping on you for being upset. All I'm saying is to just, amidst that frustration, try to remember that the one thing that's really important is that he is ready for opening day. That's what really matters, guys. Just try to remember that. Now, when he misses some regular season games, a significant amount, that's when we can have a conversation. But as long as he's just missing a spring training game or two, as opposed to what they may have said prior, who cares? Let the guy rest. The games don't count right now. As long as the guy's ready for Thursday. It's more than DJ could say, right? Judge seems to be ready to go. Not to crap on DJ. Sorry, DJ. But Judge is ready to go. At least as of now. And tomorrow, as I said a million times already, is the last day of spring training. So if nothing happens tomorrow, then bro should be ready. Gotta knock on wood. I refuse to tempt fate. Oh, my goodness. But that was some good news. But back to bad, unfortunately. Oh, gosh. Friday, a couple of days ago. It was a report that came out. And fortunately, as of right now, this is what they're saying, there's really little to no concern about this at all. So, from what I've heard, unless something has changed and something just slipped past me, but from what I've heard, bro should still be ready for opening day himself. But apparently, Anthony Rizzo, also literally the last thing I want to hear. Someone who I have predicted to have a big bounce back as well, especially after how clear he said he is after all of his concussion issues last year, after the Tatis collision. This is just about the last thing I wanted to come across the board, but yet here we are. It has nothing to do with the concussion. But Rizzo apparently had pulled himself out of the game on Friday. He was originally in the lineup and then he was scratched. Because he went to Boone and the Yankees and said that he was having slight tightness in his lat. I'm not laughing at Anthony. I'm just laughing because I don't really know what else to do. I just hope this doesn't turn into a bigger problem, because I want Rizzo out there kicking ass. We saw the numbers that he was putting up before the collision last year. We saw what Rizzo could still do at his age when he's healthy. That's all I want. I just want that Rizzo out there playing first base. That's all I want. And I don't ask for a lot. At least I don't think I do. Do I? Do I ask for a lot? Tell me. Tell me if I do, because then I'll tone it down. But I don't think I ask for a lot. So he's dealing with that right now. There's really been not too much of an update on that forefront. But he's experiencing some lat tightness. But the good thing is that pulled himself on Friday, and the regular season starts on Thursday, so he's allowing himself to rest for about a week or so. That is if he doesn't play tomorrow, but to the best of my understanding, I don't think we should be expecting him to. But that's the latest with Rizzo, because he didn't play in either of the games today, whether it be the one against the Pirates or the game in New Mexico. Didn't play at all. At first base, starting in the game against the Pirates, it was Torrens. And then playing at first base in the New Mexico game was Jose Rojas. So he was not seen again today. And he was not seen on Saturday either, because Rojas played first base in the game against the Phillies. And in the game against the Tigers, it was Torrens again, later replaced by Rumfield later in the game. So I wouldn't expect him tomorrow, unless, of course, he's just penciled in for some reason. But if I were the Yankees, I would again, just like in the case of DJ, I'd probably just rest him until opening day. Because I think Rizzo got plenty of spring training reps. And as long as he just continues to take it easy and maybe just has some live BP perhaps, then just put him in for opening day if he's ready to go. And take it from there. But it's a little touch and go as long as it's just like a little tightness. You just have to be careful because it's tough to manage those things. And important to know when the right time is to dip back in, when the right time is not, when it's time to push it a little bit, when it's not time to push it. So who the hell knows, guys? In other words, I guess that's what I'm trying to say at the end of the day. Who the hell knows? Like is the case with most of these freaking injuries. So, there you go. Rizzo, slight lat tightness. We'll see where he ends up with that as far as the split squad tomorrow or opening day on Thursday. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, as far as potential options to play first, I mean, if you got to make a roster move, if Rizzo is IL-able, guess I just made up a new term there, injured listable. But if he is, then I don't know, do you play Torrens over there? I know the Yankees have liked what they've seen from Torrens this spring. They've said on many occasions. I mean, do you put him at first base for a little while because he's played first base a lot the last couple of days in Rizzo's absence? Or a lot of people always talk about how catchers have an ability to play first base a lot of the time. Do you give maybe someone like Austin Wells over there, if he's ever played first base in his whole life, do you maybe try to give him some reps over there? I don't know what the answer is. I mean, the Yankees could do either one. It's really up to them at the end of the day. It's tough to say, really. But I do know that they've liked Torrens a lot, and Rizzo, if he has to be IL'd or even just miss a couple of days, it could be an option. Or they could even maybe give a game or two to Oswaldo, and we'll just have to wait and see here. It's tricky, but the Yankees really can't afford to have Rizzo down for long term again. That would just really, 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 really suck. So let's just try to avoid that as best as possible. So we'll see what goes on with him down the line. But I hope, of course, it ends up being a nothing burger because, again, they're not expressing really any concern over it. And apparently, according to Rizzo, this is something that he experiences kind of often during some of his regular seasons. We know that guys play a little banged up with certain things here and there, and they just play through it. This seems like it was just one of those things for Rizzo, and it kicked in a little early this time, so let's just hope it just stays that and it doesn't really have any effect. That's all we could hope for. But also some other news came out alongside that on Friday, and that was that Clayton Andrews was optioned to AAA as well, so the trimming of the roster continued. And really the last piece of news for this week came out actually today, just a few hours ago as a matter of fact, during gameplay this afternoon. And that was that the Yankees had officially decided on who the fifth starter in the rotation will be, which is actually majorly what we discussed last week, particularly on the social media segment. We were asking, or rather I had asked you, what you think the Yankee starting rotation should be, or what your starting rotation would be. And when I gave mine, obviously if you listen back to last week's episode, you'll hear that alongside many others who said similar things. Other people said other things. That's totally fine. Understandable. But what I had said is that I would have liked to have seen Luis Gil get his shot as the fifth starter, as I have also very much liked what I have seen from him this spring. First real legitimate look at him, or looks at him, post Tommy John. And his control and command seems to be a bit more under control, for sure, which is very encouraging, especially after a surgery as major as Tommy John. And it is still as electric as ever between his breaking stuff, his off-speed stuff, and his fastball, which zips as aggressively as it ever has. And even though you can't really afford to tax his arm too much, because again, he is just coming off Tommy John surgery, he is definitely going to have an innings limitation to a certain degree. But especially as long as Garrett Cole is out, and particularly, I definitely thought that Luis Gil should be getting most of, if not all, the reps as a fifth starter to help out this rotation in Cole's absence especially. So you could imagine my happiness today when it was announced mid-afternoon that the Yankees had chosen none other than Luis Gil to be their fifth starter. Yeah, sure. Give Luis a round of applause. Definitely deserved. So we will see Luis Gil in the rotation, at least to start the year. And I have given all my reasons already how I think that is a very good candidate to round off the rotation, especially in the absence of Garrett Cole. I definitely think someone like Gil, even if he just gives you about 5 innings in his starts, and I know that some think that that could be a detriment to the bullpen, at least to start off, but I think it's something they could handle at the very beginning. And I just think Gil's stuff is going to speak for itself. I really like what we've seen in the spring, and I know, yes, it's spring training, but, I mean, other than how good the guy's stuff looks, what else do you really have to go on when picking your candidates? It's an important time to prove yourself. If you are indeed fighting for a spot either in the rotation, the lineup, the roster in general, it's a good time. And Luis Gil has done very well. I would not have had a problem with another candidate such as Will Warren, or perhaps somebody even outside of the rotation like Mr. Jordan Montgomery, who is still unsigned. And you know that I would have no problem if the Yankees were to get Montgomery back. As a matter of fact, I'd be pretty happy about it. I really would be. But if you're going to look within, I definitely think Luis Gil is the best option. I'm not going to have him start the whole year and overtax his arm. I know that part of it. Post-Tommy John surgery, I know that's not realistic. But at least to start here, the first month or two, it could go very well. And if it doesn't, like we've well established, you have other arms there to look at. Will Warren definitely being one of them. Clayton Beeter being another. You have other arms that could potentially pick up the slack and take over for Gil, or maybe you could even move Gil to the bullpen and give those other arms a shot and have them pair up on those days all the time. There's a lot of things you could do here. The Yankees do have some depth here. Despite the depth that they got rid of with the Soto trade and some other moves they made and some guys that they lost, Rule 5 draft or not, despite the pitching depth they lost, they still have a decent amount of it. So they can finagle this while Cole is out. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this in the sense to have it come off like I'm not worried about the pitching at all, because I am very worried about the pitching. I've been very open about that. As a matter of fact, it is very concerning for me. Very, very concerning. Too many question marks in this rotation, and really not enough sure factors. And it's nothing against Marcus Stroman. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to have a pretty good year. But if Marcus Stroman, if you're in the win-now window that the Yankees are currently in or claim to be in, if Marcus Stroman is your best and most reliable starter, you probably don't have the best rotation with a lot of certainties, or anything close to the closest thing you can get to a certainty, rather. And that is the case with the Yankees, because Rodon is a question mark. I am still being confident in him to have a bounce back, despite his last start not being good, but the 2 or 3 starts prior to that were really good, but the last one not. But I'm still believing in him. However, he's very far from being anything close to a certainty. Same thing with Nestor Cortez. With how much time he spent on the injured list last year, and when he wasn't on the IL, he was regressing. I guess the next best guy you have as far as certainty and able to stay healthy and be on the mound, that would be Clark Schmidt. But obviously, he's definitely going to have his fair share of starts when he gets banged around, because he's still on the road to learning what it takes to be a major league starter. So I wouldn't expect too much out of him. As a matter of fact, I think mid to high 3s ERA would be a big W as far as I'm concerned if Clark managed to finish the year with that sort of an ERA. And then if you have Gil rounding out the 5th spot, well, he's still coming off of Tommy John surgery, despite how much I love how his stuff looks. So this rotation's got a lot of uncertainties and a lot of question marks. Now, especially in the event that Cole does come back and he's himself and all is well, if these question marks prove to be positives, this rotation could be killer. But it's just a matter of how much you feel is the likelihood of that being able to take place. And many would argue that it's not very good in their eyes. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll just have to wait and see. But Gil announced as a 5th starter. I do think this is the right move. I am sorry to those who wanted someone like Will Warren or Clayton Beeter to get the nod. Again, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I do think Heel's the guy. And hey, if he's not, and I'm wrong, and all the Heel supporters are wrong, I've been wrong before. Everybody's been wrong before, even though they might not want to admit it. But then you pivot. That's part of baseball, man. It's a long season. There's probably going to be a lot of pivoting, especially in today's age where literally no one can stay healthy anymore. Pivoting is a frequent thing in this sport. As much as I hate that word, you do have to do it a lot. But that's the latest on that, guys. So the rotation looks to be, even though Nestor's starting opening day, from 1 to 5, when the rotation shapes out and looks to be this, I'd probably have it something along the lines of Rodon, Stroman, Nestor, or Nestor then Stroman. Doesn't really make a difference to me. Those are your first 3. Then Clark at 4. And then you have Heel at 5. Now, if you want to shift any of the 2, 3, 4s, that's totally fine. But that's the general make out of it, and then Heel rounding it out. So we'll see how it goes. As of now, that's really all that can be said, guys. But speaking of pitching, and starting pitching at that, there is some big news out there. News that I have been waiting months for because I am tired of hearing about it. And I am pleased to report that as of the last few days since this took place, I have not heard anything about it, like none of us have anymore, because it is now officially done with as of this news dropping. And that news is surrounding the very guy that I have been clowning on for months now for still being unemployed. Yes, you probably guessed it by now. It is Mr. Blake Snell. He has finally signed a contract.
Holy crap!
Yeah, another holy crap is completely necessary because my God, how long have we been waiting for this to happen? Whether it be the Yankees or another West Coast team or staying put in San Diego or, hell, anywhere. Well, it turns out that this past week, he signed a contract with the San Francisco Giants. So bro is staying on the East Coast. Was in San Diego before, now he's in San Francisco. Going from south to north. He's going to the Giants for 2 years, $62 million. That apparently includes an opt-out after the first season. And this happened just 9 days before opening day. So with that math, it happened basically towards the start of the week on Tuesday. About a week, give or take, before opening day, bro finally decides to sign a contract. Now, he's obviously not going to be ready for the very start of the season, as we have well established. Dude has got to ramp up the right way for a little bit. That's what you get for waiting this long. But my God, I know that opt-outs are important for some, and for some it is a vital part of negotiations and signing this particular contract as opposed to another. But my God in heaven, can we all agree on one thing? This was a pitiful charade. This whole production that was put on this offseason by Blake Snell and Scott Boras, who woefully misread his client's market. I think we have said that a million times now. And sweet baby Jesus, did that come to fruition. Wow. Can you imagine months ago your sole offer coming from the Yankees being 6 years, $150, which on average is $25 million a year? You turn down 6 years, a lot more guaranteed years than 2 with an opt-out after 1. I'd be shocked if he doesn't take the opt-out after 2024, which best of luck to him because Blake Snell has not managed to repeat dominant seasons. So, best of luck. His market might be even worse come this time next year if he does choose to have that opt-out and he doesn't have the best of seasons. So, best of luck there, Blake. But nonetheless, with or without that opt-out, you want to tell me that you easily take the 2 years, 62 over 6 years guaranteed with 150 total? Bro, you lost out on almost $100 million for 4 more years. I don't care about the opt-out. I mean, hey, maybe my opinion doesn't matter. If the opt-out matters to him and he's completely content with taking this contract, then more power to you, Blake. All I'm saying is that from where I'm sitting, you lost out on potentially taking center stage with the New York Yankees in their starting rotation, which desperately needs help because they have a very few amount of certainties here, or close to certainties. And especially with Garrett Cole out right now, hell, you could be leading it for 4 more years and almost $100 million more. What are you doing? This was embarrassing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I wouldn't even know what to say to my agent if I were Blake. Turn down the sole offer you got for months, according to reports, 6 years, $150, because you apparently so desperately wanted $30 million a year, that particular AAV. Dude, get over yourself, dude. I know he just won the Cy Young Award. But if you are in his shoes, regardless of your opinion on this, if you're in his shoes, regardless of what you think his market should be, or whether or not you believe that he has the right to ask for something even more than what the Yankees offered him, if in reality you are getting a sole offer of 6 years, $150, and no sign of getting anything better, to the point where you are taking it to opening day nearly, and the best you could pull off is 2 years, $62 million with an opt-out after the first year, I don't know what other way to put it other than saying you failed. You failed. You let the 6-year contract with almost $100 million more than your current contract pass you by for this contract. And if he's happy, then again, more power to him. At the end of the day, it's his career, his life, his choice. Maybe you just didn't want to be here. Maybe you just didn't want to be a Yankee. Maybe you didn't want to come to the East Coast. Maybe you like the West Coast. We don't know. But all I'm saying is that from where I'm sitting, it seems to be extremely foolish from a contractual standpoint, because he costed himself 4 more years with almost $100 million more. 88 to be exact. That's a massive difference. So if you're tackling this strictly from a contract standpoint, this was just a laughable failure by Blake Snell and his camp. There's just no other way to put it. So I just had to mention that and get that off my chest. It is laughable. Laughable. So have fun in San Francisco, Blake. I don't really know what else to tell you. I don't really know what else to say. So that's that. Blake Snell's a giant now. That's how that ended up. And ever since this happened, it was almost immediately reported that the Yankees had reestablished contact with Jordan Montgomery, and they've been talking to him, despite the two sides apparently still being far apart. So I don't know what's going to happen. Again, like I said before, if the Yankees reunite with Montgomery, I'd be totally fine with that. Apparently he's looking for a good chunk of money, and hey, good for him, more power to him. But Montgomery, like I said with Blake, I can't be a hypocrite here. I will say this. Opening day is now a half a week away. It'd be in your best interest, if you want to get a good amount of innings on your arm to start the year, to sign almost immediately. Hurry up. We'd love to have you back, at least from a fan standpoint. I would have no problem with it. Definitely would add more stability to a potentially highly unstable starting rotation. But the clock is ticking, brother. Might want to make a decision there. But nonetheless, that's the latest on Blake Snell. Now, the last part of this segment, and I'm trying not to spend too long on this, but I definitely have to at least mention it because it has completely conquered the baseball world, nearly completely conquered the last few days. Something very interesting coming out of Los Angeles. A lot of interesting crap happening in California. You seen a pattern here? I mean, come on. It's absolutely crazy. What a chaotic state. Good Lord. Well, it's gotten even more chaotic. Because of a certain man who, for a while now, and will continue to, especially after this, aside from just his talent, obviously always has the eyes of the entire globe on him. It's Mr. Shohei Ohtani, in case you haven't guessed. There's something very interesting that came out this past week. Potential scandal brewing. Yes, that's right. But very interesting thing that came out in the middle of the week, that he had fired his translator and apparently also a very close friend over $4.5 million involving an illegal bookie. Now, I want to get something straight and be very clear about something before we get into this discussion at all. I want everybody to understand that when it comes to this subject, gambling, betting, anything of the sort, I have got to feign ignorance here to a certain degree, because I have not placed a single bet on anything sports related in my entire life. Given how big of a sports fan I am, that may surprise some people. I've made like small, little friendly couple of dollar bets with friends, but nothing official and nothing of high financial circumstances or pressure, I should say. I've never done anything of the sorts. I'm not a bettor. I'm not a gambler. I'm nothing like that. So I have to a certain degree, feign ignorance when it comes to how gambling works, what channels it goes through, as to how it happens. I know for some that's general knowledge, but hey, not everybody can know everything. I don't know too much about this particular arena. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't understand this or something about this case. And if I do understand something, please feel free to enlighten me. Leave a comment underneath the audio file or video, depending on where you're listening or watching or whatever. Or even hit me up on social media and steer me in the right direction. But all I know is that it seems like, at least what it's being painted as, is that Shohei's translator, interpreter, and also close personal friend, from what I understand, had a big gambling problem. Now, to the best of my understanding, I do not think that this is legal in California. Now, I tried to do my research on this. Again, if I am wrong, please correct me. But to the best of my understanding, I do not think this is allowed in California, or at least where Ohtani is. So, the bizarre thing about this, and I went to my boy Jeff Passan, because Passan is really like the main guy that I trust. So, guys like Passan, Jack Curry, Ken Rosenthal, there are only a handful of reporters that I really trust in the baseball industry. And Passan, from what I understand, was nice enough to put together a sort of quick synopsis about the order of events that took place in this whole thing, for lack of a better word. But from what I can understand, I did screenshot this synopsis. And I'm going to read it out to you, because it's the best way to properly give you the details on what happened here. But more or less, obviously with this gambling thing, this would be a federal thing, so this could potentially be a very big investigation. And anytime Ohtani's name comes up in it, you're going to draw some eyeballs, to say the very least. Oh my goodness. So, here's the synopsis. Apparently, Ohtani's name first came up, we know that. And then his team around him, not the Dodgers, his personal team, say that Shohei transferred this $4.5 million to the bookkeeper to pay off his interpreter and best friend's debt, his gambling debts. Now, the reason why this became so big was because, after all this, people were speculating whether or not it was Ohtani doing the betting on sports, perhaps even on baseball, or something in his own arena, which is obviously highly illegal, aside from the gambling itself. But that would be even more illegal and highly unethical, obviously. So people were speculating that this could have been his own debt, because, I mean, where the hell else would $4.5 million come from? It's going to come from the translator or interpreter? Hell no. So people were getting suspicious of Ohtani at this point. And like making all sorts of jokes, being like, oh, like get up that game again where Ohtani gave up a bunch of runs to the Oakland A's. Like, when the Oakland A's were a god-awful team. Because like, oh, he must have been betting on that game and took the fall for it. So, I don't know. It's just a bunch of people making jokes about it. But people started to get really suspicious of him. So then the synopsis continues and says that Ohtani's personal team sends his translator and interpreter friend to ESPN, and he states that Ohtani never gambled, just that Shohei had felt bad for him, so he paid off his debt. Then his team says that his friend is lying and that there's been a massive theft. So at this point, honestly, if I'm being really truthful with you, even right now, even I'm confused. All I know is that this seems really suspect. Really weird. So then obviously there was the Seoul series, the game in Seoul, South Korea, that took place this past week. The first couple of games of the actual regular season, which is really weird to me. Between the Dodgers and the Padres. They went to Seoul in South Korea to play the first 2 games of the series, of the season. And now they go back to exhibition games for a few days, and the actual regular season will begin for everybody else and will continue for them, obviously mid to late this coming week. So really weird to even do that in the first place. I know it's for international exposure, even though Korea is already huge into baseball. But weird nonetheless. But after all of this, despite everything, Ohtani and his friend, the translator and interpreter, partook in the Seoul series in Game 1. So that was still going on. Then his friend told ESPN after that Shohei had no knowledge of his gambling debts. So then how and why was that $4.5 million paid off then? Like, at this point, I'm just totally confused. So then another quote came out from his friend saying he, quote-unquote, never bet on baseball. Then his friend addressed the team in the clubhouse, saying that a story will come out saying that it is all his own fault. So, I don't know, just took a really weird turn. Then his friend was fired from the Dodgers. And now tomorrow, Ohtani, for the first time this all came out, is finally going to be addressing the media. So I don't know what's going to be said. All I know is that this situation stinks to high heaven, and I'm very confused. That's all I can tell you here on Sunday evening on the 24th of March in 2024. I am confused and very suspicious here. Guys, the sequence of these events doesn't make any sense. So, originally, it was Ohtani was transferring money to the bookie to pay off his friend's debts. Which, where is the friend, a translator and interpreter, getting that kind of money to gamble with in the first place? I don't know. Maybe he gets paid very well, and I just have no idea. I know the average salary for translators and interpreters is significantly less than that. But who knows what kind of stuff goes on, right? So, it starts off that he transferred the money to the bookie to pay off his friend's debts. Then Ohtani's team sends his friend to ESPN, states that Ohtani never gambled and that he just felt bad for his friend, so he paid off his friend's debt. Then Ohtani's team says that his friend is lying and there's been a massive theft of Shohei's money. Then they still partook in the Seoul series. His friend then said that Shohei had no knowledge of his gambling debts. So now Shohei has no knowledge of his own money, the $4.5 million, and he never bet on baseball, like some people are suspecting. That's what they're claiming, that he never bet on baseball. Now a story's coming out that it's all the friend's fault. He was fired from the Dodgers, and now Ohtani's addressing the media tomorrow. So things like, from the best of my understanding, again, if I'm wrong, please correct me, enlighten me. I'm not all-knowing in this arena, far from it. But it seems like things have changed, switched up, and there's a lot of weird crap going on here. I would like to think that someone like Shohei Ohtani would know what's going on with his funds, where it's going, what's being paid off. I'd like to think that. But who the hell knows? I don't know. Who's lying? Who's betting? Who's gambling? Who's doing something potentially illegal? And the very weird thing is, especially about all of it, is that for Major League Baseball, the weirdos and inexplainable freak show that they always prove themselves to be in the face of potential scandals. At first, they said that they were not going to investigate this. That nothing really jumped out at them, something they could just sweep under the rug, apparently. And then after about a day or two of severe backlash and pressure, rightfully so, because of how weird and bizarre this all is, then they said, we're going to launch an investigation. So, I don't know. And who knows if they do find anything, if they'll be upfront about it. I mean, it would certainly be hard to hide, especially if it's a potential federal offense. But, I mean, this is the golden boy, Shohei Ohtani. Came here internationally, the guy who could pitch and hit. Guy who was said to be very down to earth, highly talented, one of the more talented athletes on the planet. He's the international golden boy, who's now playing in Major League Baseball with the biggest contract, with the most deferred money in history. Which was suspect in itself, how an organization could even get away with deferring that kind of money. That's a whole story for another day. But in any event, this is the golden boy. And I'm sure Major League Baseball would love nothing more than to just wipe people's memories and make them forget that any of this is even happening. Because this is a bad look. Even if it's proven that nothing suspect was going on here or anything illegal, still a very bizarre story that definitely needs investigating. Without a doubt. So that was the quick synopsis, as of now at least, and it is going to continue tomorrow when Shohei addresses the media. Now, we're going to go a couple of weeks without even talking about this because the next time I'm going to be talking to you in 2 Sundays from now. If I remember to, or if it's anything even worth talking about, we'll continue the discussion on this when I come back at you in 2 Sundays. But as of right now, this is the deal. Really weird, guys. Very suspect. I just wanted to hit on that for a bit because it definitely deserves at least a little bit of attention. It is a huge story going on throughout Major League Baseball that should be addressed no matter what content a show contains. I think it should be addressed regardless. So like I said, an interesting week in news, right? I wasn't lying to you. Exciting stuff here as we head up to opening day. Crazy things happening here. Oh my goodness. Just when the action that counts is about to get underway, it all begins. So that's the news for this past week, my friends. What do you say we talk about some of the takeaways from this past week's games before we head up to the social media segment and wrap up episode 214 today? What exciting show. Oh my God. So much going on. Love it. So we go back to Monday, if you will. Yankees and Phillies at George M. Steinbrenner. Yankees been facing the Phillies quite a bit lately. Well, it did happen again. On Monday, Carlos Rodon took the hill for the Yankees. And this was one of the 2 or 3 prior starts that I was talking about prior to his most recent that I was saying he was looking really damn good. And in this game, it continued, guys. 5 2/3 of no-hit baseball. Only 1 base runner allowed on a walk and 5 strikeouts. So again, Rodon's stuff looked fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it took his spring ERA under 3 at this point. So an epic start by Rodon, honestly. Love to see that. Definitely helped to build my confidence up in a comeback by him even more. Again, I know it's just spring training. But you got to take the good when you can get it, man. Especially when it comes to Rodon. At this point last year, he wasn't even pitching. So let's take some W's where we can, as far as I'm concerned. Then Ian Hamilton finished off that 6th inning for him. Loaizaga came in, did give up a run, 2 hits in that 1 inning. And then Poteet came in, 2 innings, 2 runs himself. So 3 total runs given up, none by Rodon or Ian Hamilton. And prior to that, in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings, the Yankees did score. Solo bomb by Oswaldo in the bottom of the 3rd. Absolute tank job. Alex Verdugo, RBI single in the 4th. And then Anthony Volpe, actually on an error by Hall at first base by the Phillies, did reach base, drove home Cabrera. That was 3 runs. Then he scored a 4th on a bases-loaded hit by pitch by Kevin Smith. So that made it 4-0. Then the 3 late runs by the Phillies resulted in a Yankees 4-3 victory. Big story again in this game being Rodon pitching as well as he did. And then to add on to that, something very special happened when it came to Rodon's start being wrapped up. Something that I did not expect, and it hit me straight in the feels and took me right back to when I first started watching baseball in 2007. And that was something really cool that the Yankees chose to do. And apparently it was said that they were expecting this to happen at some point in spring training, at any point. And it happened in this very moment, which is a very good moment, not only because of how great it was that Rodon pitched, but of course because of the person that I'm about to mention himself that made an appearance. Coming out to take the ball from Rodon after 5 2/3 of no-hit baseball was not Aaron Boone. As a matter of fact, it was a former manager. None other than, and this is how he's referred to by the Yankee captain and many others who were under him, Mr. T, Mr. Joe Torre. Hit that iconic slow walk of his out to the mound to take the ball from Rodon, assured him how good of a job he did, and stayed out there to talk to the remainder of the Yankee infield as well. How cool of an experience that must have been, huh? Someone like Joe Torre talking to guys like Anthony Volpe and so on and so forth. That was awesome. I almost could not believe my eyes when I was seeing him walk out to the mound. I was like, that cannot be real, right? They had shown him on the sidelines talking to Boone and others, like he was there around the Yankees for a while on the sidelines. But actually going out to get the ball from Rodon, especially after the start that he had, and it's just awesome. Really touching moment for someone who, when I'd first gotten into baseball, and especially the Yankees in 2007, he was the guy. Joe was the manager. And even though some would argue, and I wouldn't necessarily completely disagree with them, that at that time a change was necessary in the managerial position, they would obviously move on to Joe Girardi from there. But I always had, and still have, the utmost respect for Joe Torre. And whenever I see him, I just get very happy. And it's just a flashback to when I first got into baseball. It really hits me in my feels. It's very nostalgic. So when I saw that happening, it just really hit me in my feels. It just rocked me to my core, honestly, in a good way, in a very good way. But it just rocked me to my core, seeing him go out there and take the ball from a pitcher. It just did something to my feelings. I don't know. Got me. It got me. That was awesome. So a really sweet moment in the Yankee game, honestly. That was really, really nice. So quite frankly, just an epic moment in that game for an exhibition game. Really, really epic, unexpected, just amazing. So it was really, really nice. Capped off by a nice win on Monday. So awesome day for the Yankees on Monday. Tuesday, they were off. Nothing happened then. Wednesday, blowout game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Big game for the Yankees. I know it's exhibition, but it was still fun nonetheless, guys. This sort of thing is very fun to watch. Mr. Luke Weaver got the start. Nice other look at him here, obviously. Another potential candidate to take that fifth spot or be a long relief guy in the bullpen, perhaps. He went 3 1/3, allowing 2 hits, 1 walk, striking out 2, and not giving up any runs. So, very nice job for Luke there. Another good outing for him. And the rest of the pitchers did not allow a damn thing either. Victor Gonzalez, scoreless inning. Clay Holmes, scoreless 2/3 of an inning. Ian Hamilton, scoreless inning. Ferguson, scoreless inning. Birdie, scoreless inning. Andrews, scoreless inning. Very good pitching day for the Yankees, and an even better offensive day, especially from my boy, Mr. Giancarlo Stanton. 3 home runs in this game, guys. Unbelievable. Albeit exhibition, but just an absolute scoring explosion, a barrage, led by Mr. Stanton. Started by the captain, Mr. Aaron Judge. This is, like I said before, his first day back. So it's awesome to see him do this right off the bat. Pun entirely intended. Right away. RBI double, driving home Soto, made it 1-0. Stanton hit his first home run of the night, second of spring training, made it 3-0. Volpe even got in on it right after hitting a home run of his own. Then Stanton's second home run was a grand salami. So that was awesome. Made it 8-0, piling on. Then the bottom of the fourth, just 2 innings later, he went deep again. So my guy missed the home run cycle by just a 3-run homer. 2-run homer first, grand slam, then a solo shot. 3-run homer, he would have had the home run cycle. How would that have been? But he's so humble about it. This is why I like Stanton. He's funny. He was like, well, in a few days, guess what? It's going to be wiped clean. It doesn't even matter. He's right, but still really cool to reflect on. It's an awesome game for him. And he still wasn't even done after that because in the bottom of the 6th, he added on a sac fly to it. And right when the ball went in the air, everybody's like, oh my God, 4th home run. It's funny. But we'll take the sac fly, Giancarlo. And then Anthony Rizzo got an RBI double after that, driving home Soto, made it 11-0, and then a wild pitch scored another, Grisham to be specific, 12-0. That was the final. My goodness. So 12-0 on Wednesday. Thursday, the Yankees took on the Braves on the road. Nestor took the hill for this one. Again, did not look great. Just not liking what I see. Just trying to remain calm. Reminded myself it's an exhibition. It's all good. 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, struck out 3, giving up a home run as well. Not the best. That's for sure. Not too much offense to go around for the Yankees, though. They did score first in the top of the 4th on a bases-loaded hit by pitch by Caleb Durbin. So that put them up first, but then the Braves answered back, tied it up on a Michael Harris, the second RBI single. Should mention that, the second. Austin Wells gave the Yankees the lead back on an RBI single as his kick-ass spring continues. Then the Braves retied it on an Orlando Arcia home run. That was the one home run off Nestor. Tying it at 2. And Ronald Acuna Jr. gave him the lead. And then they added on in the bottom of the 7th on a Bryson Horn RBI double and added on once more on a fielder's choice in the bottom of the 8th. Made it 5-2 Braves. And that was the final. So other than Mr. Austin Wells and Mr. Caleb Durbin, nobody really doing anything offensively for the Yanks, and Nestor not having the best of starts, to say the least. Friday, the Yankees took on the Mets. Starting this one was Mr. Luis Gil. As a matter of fact, the 2 guys who pitched in this game were quite possibly the very 2 who were competing for that final spot in the rotation. So that was really cool to see. It was Mr. Luis Gil and Will Warren, just 2 pitchers. Gil started it off, and he went 4 innings, allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. But the 2 runs were just given up on the 2-run shot that he had given up to Mr. Mark Vientos. So you take that away, obviously, and you can. I mean, it was part of his line, so it is what it is. But if you take that away, he really only gave up 1 hit on the whole night. Not to really irrationally defend Luis Gil here, but, everybody makes a mistake. He made a mistake pitch. So, other than that mistake pitch, though, Luis Gil did not have himself a bad start, even though the line doesn't look necessarily the best. But he still showed some pretty good control here. I mean, if you're going to give me a 5-inning, 2-run outing, I mean, hey, you could do worse. Definitely worse. Especially if it was just on a home run. It happens, man. People make mistake pitches. Will Warren looked good after that, too, as well, though. Didn't strike out anybody, but he went 5 innings and gave up 3 hits, just 1 run, and walked 2. He would get the win on the night. So it was good to see the both of them. Really cool to have them both pitch in the same game and have it be just the 2 of them. When it came to the Yankees scoring, that Vientos home run had put the Mets up 2-0 at first. Giancarlo made it 2-1 on an RBI single as he continues to just put bat to ball and kick ass like I like. Bottom of the 4th, Jose Trevino tied it up with the infield RBI single right up the middle. Then Francisco Lindor hit a sacrifice fly to give the Mets the lead back. Kevin Smith put the Yanks back ahead on a 2-run double, with Glaber adding on an RBI single to make it 5-3. Yankees grabbed the W against the Mets at GMS. Then Saturday was the first of 3 split squads. Yesterday, the Yankees faced both the Tigers and the Phillies. Tigers on the road, Phillies at home at GMS. Phillies game ended in a tie. 6-6 was not the first tied spring training game for the Yankees this year, but an interesting one nonetheless. Starting this game for the Yankees was Mr. Carlos Rodon, and in this game, again, this was the first start in a while. He did not look good. 4 innings, gave up 7 hits, 6 runs, 4 of them earned. A couple of them weren't earned thanks to errors by Kevin Smith and Ben Rortvedt. But other than that, did not look great in this start. I was hoping that after giving up that 1 run in the first inning that he would shape up, but it just kind of didn't, unfortunately. The second inning was a rough one, and then the fourth inning obviously had the errors not helping anything out. So, not great there. He walked one as well and struck out two, so not a great start for Carlos. But, hey, you know what? Doesn't count. See how it goes when the season starts. We definitely saw a good mixed bag here with Carlos this spring. Saw some really kick-ass starts, and you saw some starts that were not so great. So we'll see how it happens once it actually counts, once it actually means something. Rest of the Yankee pitchers went scoreless, though. Nick Ramirez, 3 scoreless innings. Miraculously, a scoreless inning for Mr. Ron Marinaccio. And Mosqueda pitched a scoreless inning as well. When it came to the scoring for the Yankees, quite a bit happened again, because they did put up 6 runs. Oswaldo, another home run for him. Another bomb. 2-run shot, driving home Verdugo as well. Made it 5-2 at the time. And then when it was 6-2, in the bottom of the 6th, Greg Allen came up and got a 2-run double, driving home Groshans and Gleyber Torres. So that made it 6-4. Verdugo's sac fly made it 6-5, and then in the bottom of the 9th, Oscar Gonzalez got an RBI single to make it 6-6, and that is how the game ended, tied up. Over in the other game against the Tigers, starting this one was Poteet. He did not have a good outing at all. 2 1/3, 8 runs given up on 8 hits. 2 home runs, 3 walks, striking out 2. It was a disaster area, quite frankly. Cody Morris continued to be awful, too, again after that. 1 inning, giving up 2 runs. Beater in 4 innings, definitely ate up the most innings in this game by far. Only gave up a run as well. Did walk a couple, so that command was a little astray, like we've mentioned. It tends to be at times with him. But he did strike out 4 as well, so averaging a strikeout an inning again with that good put-away stuff. But he definitely looked amongst the best, well, definitely the best of anybody in this game, because Stevens and Nixon each only got 1 out, and then Morris and Poteet were just train wrecks. So Beater was definitely the highlight of the pitching, and because of all those runs given up, the Tigers put up 11 on the day. A lot of runs given up. But when it comes to the Yankees scoring, Caleb Durbin got an RBI single. Ben Rice got a sacrifice fly. He's also a potential option to be some infield depth if needed, for Rizzo in particular at first base. And other infield depth in particular, like I forgot to mention before, Kevin Smith as well. But again, we'll see how the Yankees choose. But after Ben Rice's sac fly, Trent Grisham got an RBI single himself. That tied the game at 3 at that point. And they're going back and forth for a while. Parker Meadows' 2-run shot immediately answered in the top of the 3rd by a Jahmai Jones 2-run shot. Another potential depth piece there. So they're going back and forth, but then the Tigers just took off after that once Poteet fell apart. And by the time it was 9-5, Durbin got a solo shot himself, made it 9-6. And then no more scoring took place after that by the Yankees. Final score 11-6. And then today, obviously, you had the 2 games, one against the Pirates and one in New Mexico. And, yeah, even an Italian can pronounce it well like that. That's right. But they do say Italian and Spanish are very similar, and I can vouch for that as someone who speaks a good amount of Italian. But regardless, let's start the game against the Pirates. Stroman started this one, and he looked dominant as hell again, which I am very happy about. Got the win on the day. 6 scoreless innings, 2 walks, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, so Marcus looked great. And the offense, all they had to do was put up 1 run by Jahmai Jones on an RBI double in the top of the 4th. Stroman and the remainder of the pitchers, being Birdie and De Los Santos, would take care of the rest going scoreless. Yankees win 1-0 there. And then in New Mexico, like I had said before, we had already recapped that game, so I will not be doing that one yet again. Don't need to repeat myself. So let's look ahead for the rest of the week, and obviously the week after that, since I will not be talking to you for another 2 Sundays. Or, yeah, just next Sunday, and then I'll be back on the 7th. But tomorrow you have another split squad being the last day for the Yankees. That second game in New Mexico at 8 p.m. Eastern, like I had mentioned before. And then at 1:05 Eastern, Yankees and Mets at GMS. Clark Schmidt will be starting that game against Sean Manaea. And the Yankees will be wrapping up that New Mexico thing as well. Not many big leaguers went there. Giancarlo and just a few others. Many stayed behind at GMS, Judge and Soto and a few others, to be specific. But then after that, spring training for the Yankees is over, guys, yet again. So we jump to opening day on Thursday the 28th. I cannot believe it is just days away. 4:10 Eastern in Houston. Nestor Cortez against Framber Valdez in Houston. Be sure you tune in, obviously. Friday, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, Game 2 of the season. Again in Houston, obviously. Pitchers not announced yet, still TBD. That game's available on Apple TV alone, unfortunately. Starting that BS right away. Saturday night's game will be at 7:15 Eastern. Those starts, obviously, TBD as well for the starters. And Sunday to wrap up the 4-game set in Houston, which I am sure will be nothing but chaotic as it should be. 2:10 Eastern on Easter Sunday. They'll be finishing up that series and then heading over to Arizona on Monday the 1st. At 9:40 Eastern, the first game of that series. Obviously, all these games, no starters announced as of yet. But that game will that series will be in Chase Field on the road for the Yankees. First game on Monday the 1st, 9:40 p.m. Eastern. The same thing for Tuesday the 2nd. And on Wednesday, April 3rd, that'll round out the 3-game set in Arizona. So the Yankees, a couple of tougher tasks right to start the season. Arizona, not a bad team at all. Neither are the Astros, obviously. They have never been the last bunch of years. Goes without saying. Thursday will be their first off day of the year, which takes us to opening weekend at Yankee Stadium, the weekend of April 5th, starting off against none other than the Toronto Blue Jays. Good opening opponent at first. I like that. 1:05 Eastern is the home opener on Friday the 5th in the Bronx, followed by Saturday's game, April 6th, 7:05 Eastern, again in the Bronx, and then Sunday rounding it out against the Blue Jays. When we speak next will be at 1:35 p.m. Eastern. I cannot believe I'm literally sitting here with you talking about when regular season games will be happening and who it'll be against again. It does not feel real, guys. I know a lot of people call me dramatic and over the top with that, but I do love baseball that much, guys. What can I tell you? I love it that much. So that is what has happened. Big takeaways from this past week's games, the last full week of spring training, obviously, as there is only one day left of it for the Yankees tomorrow. And then what is to come for the start of the 2024 regular season. So what say you we move on to the final segment of the show today, as we are now already over an hour and 22 minutes in, as time just flies like always. The social media segment, open-ended question for us here again today. The only thing that really matters is opening day is the only thing on everybody's mind. It is only 4 more days away. I always do this right before the season begins, in the final episode before it starts, because there's no better time to do it before it does start. Now, I allowed everybody to give their predictions for their hot takes and whatnot a bunch of weeks ago on the predictions episode. But I always do this sort of prediction thing as well, sort of like a 1A predictions episode, if you will. But there's no better time to do it than before the season starts. I ask everybody to give their predictions on what they think the Yankees' record will be at the end of the imminent season. So that's the question for this opening day, less than a week. What are your predictions for the Yankees' 2024 ultimate regular season record? Now, mine changed a bit, believe it or not. And it changed when Garrett Cole got hurt. Because Garrett Cole, obviously, I know WAR when it comes to pitchers can be a little silly. Not a lot of people trust it. They'll go to other stats like B-WAR or F-WAR or all these other stats that they could look to. But obviously, Garrett Cole has a massive impact on the games that he pitches. Massive impact. He's not always going to go out there and be good because no one is. Nobody's perfect. But way more than not, you are going out there and feeling like the Yankees are going to win when he's taking the mound, regardless of how they manage to accomplish said win. And without him for the first couple of months, I have to take at least a couple of wins away. At least. You heard me mention the number 95 a lot whenever I mention potential amount of Yankee victories in 2024 that I was anticipating. So taking that down maybe 2 or 3 reasonably because Garrett Cole is not here. And it could end up not having an impact if the rotation holds up as nicely as we're all hoping it does the first couple of months and they survive without him and just continue to go from there for when he does return and hopefully he's himself and all that good stuff. But reasonably so, without him, I have to take a few away. So I'm modifying, as of that injury, going from 95 wins to 92 wins. So I'm taking away 3. Hope that's fair for all of you, but hey, that's just my opinion. So 92 and 70 would be the amount of losses, obviously adding up to 162. So that's my final record prediction, missing out on Cole. Obviously, I do not think this accomplishes first place in the American League East. Not at least anymore. 95 wins in years past was plenty to accomplish first place most of the time, but especially because of the high competition in the American League East, especially between teams like the Blue Jays, Yankees, Rays, and especially the Orioles, first and foremost, I should say, probably. But without Cole, I got to take it down a few, and I do think that 92 will still be enough to make the playoffs. Maybe in the first, second wild card. I don't know. We'll see. But what happens after that? Not really the question. Just want to know the regular season record prediction. So that's my prediction as of now with the current state of the team. If anything bad happens tomorrow that has potential long-term effects, it could get even worse. I don't know. But 92 is my official number. I was thinking of going 93, and I wouldn't have a problem with 93 and 69, but I'm going to stick with 92. Let's read a bunch of replies here as fast as we can so we can get through as many as we possibly could. And let's see what you guys think about how the Yankees are going to finish this year. Let's start off with at RMNY1976. They say 88 and 74. Not having Garrett Cole for at least 2 months is going to be a problem. Well, yeah, that's why I lessened my numbers. Reasonably and understandably so. At David Rifkin. David's definitely a name you hear very frequently on Yankees Twitter. David replies 95 and 67. All right. Well, that was my original record prediction before Cole's injury, so I don't have a problem with that. At Ryan Stripes also says 95 and 67. Okay. At Baliga Donal, I hope I pronounced that right, my man. Sorry if I didn't. But they predict 110 wins. 110? Holy mother of God. Talk about optimism. Okay. Alrighty. At Reeves Hickman says, hey, Mike, I'm forever optimistic about my Yankees, as you know. I think we could bring home number 28 in 24. Wins will be earth-shattering if Cole comes back early. Predicting 100-plus if that's the case. Go Yankees. Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Rebecca at Peace Now for Life says, I say 90 and 72. Of course, I'm optimistic, looking forward to a great season. Yeah, 90 wouldn't be great. Definitely not, but, I mean, it wouldn't be bad. That's for sure. But, all right, 90. That's not bad. Not a bad number. At NYY Take says, a good old 90 and 72. All right, another 90 win prediction. Fair enough. At B Welch 1943 says 102 and 60. Wow. Especially with Cole out, I definitely say that anything 100 plus is extreme optimism. But hey, if that's what you think, that's what you think. As of right now, as of this moment, none of us are definitively wrong. Season hasn't even gotten underway yet. So, at Mike B underscore 923 says 88 and 74 with a wild card spot. All right. Tina at Mountain Gal 456 says 90 and 72. Let's go Yanks. All right, got a lot of 90s and 72s. Then we have at Robertino 53 says 82 and 80. Out of the dance again. If anyone feels confident with a team with a suspect pitching staff, this has 79 written all over it. 1979. I mean, fair enough. I mean, I think 82 is that's a little rough. I give them a few more wins than that. I mean, I don't even think 88 is that outrageous to say. I think 88's kind of fair. 82, I mean, the main problem with the team last year was the offense. Extreme lack of it. And the offense, I mean, yes, it could still fall apart. People could get injured and it could just be bad again. But factually on paper, it stings with Garrett Cole out, but factually on paper, with the offense the way it is, this is a better team than last year's team. And that team won 82 games. So I have to imagine this team wins more than 82. Now, the pitching being suspect, like you say, which I agree with, I definitely think that takes them down a few pegs, which is why I went from 95, because with Garrett Cole and the rest of the team the way it is, I think it's easily a 95-win team. But Garrett Cole being out now for the first couple of months, you definitely lower that at least 3 or so, I'd say. But 82, I think that's a little pessimistic. That's just my opinion. But you're entitled to it. I just don't agree with it. At iGolfDoYou says 92 and 70. All right, my man agrees. Got a couple of those, I think. At iHubby says 3rd or 4th place in the division. With Cole out until June, the rotation's meh at best. Plus, they deal with a plethora of injuries every year. The AL East is still the toughest division in Major League Baseball. The Orioles aren't getting any respect, but it wouldn't shock me if they win it all. Yeah, it wouldn't have shocked me if they won it all last year, but then they immediately choked, so there's that. I mean, the kids on that team will have had 1 year of playoff experience underneath their belts for this year, so maybe it would be different. But yeah, I do agree with the Orioles being disrespected in some areas, because there have been plenty of people who have been doing the predicting for what the standings for the AL East are going to be this year. And the Orioles had over 100 wins last year. And even though they have their nonsensical decision of having their number one prospect not only in their organization, but in the country, in Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, in case you didn't know, start the season in the minors. I know it's for service manipulation and control and all that. I get it. Still doesn't make any sense from a talent standpoint and if you want your team to win. But nonetheless, this Orioles team, if anything, got even better, especially after the acquisition of Corbin Burns. And yet, a lot of people are predicting them to have like in the 80s in wins. So if they were as good as they were last year and won 100 plus, and they're at least as good on paper, why would you be taking away like 15 wins from them? Doesn't make any sense. That's why I don't go by the predictions, guys. They are seldom correct anyway. Especially when they predict the Yankees to finish in first place. Something goes haywire and they're horribly wrong. I hate listening to those things. Make my own predictions. So, I do agree with that last part. But, yeah, obviously with Cole out, the rotation is what it is, of course. The American League East, despite what the Dodgers commentators are saying nonsensically on that sole broadcast the other day, saying about how the American League East competition is going to be significantly less this year, with the Yankees and Red Sox battling for the basement and nothing else really happening in the division. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, the evidence is there that would completely contradict that claim. I mean, what is the most competitive division in baseball then if that's the case? I mean, the NL East has gotten less competitive in recent years with how the Braves are just taking it now. The AL Central has never been competitive. The American League West in the last couple of years, especially last year, maybe between the Astros and the Rangers especially, maybe. The NL Central, especially as of last year, not really. And the NL West, yeah, with the Dodgers on the cakewalk that they've been on every year. It's one of the least competitive divisions out there, and I don't even want to hear it. Please. Come on. What the hell division out there is more competitive than the American League East? Come on. For the vast majority of the season last year, the American League East had every single team having an over 500 record. When do you have that? Like, ever. Like, come on. Are you kidding me with that? So I do definitely agree with that toughest division thing as well, especially because I do think the Yankees are better on paper than they were last year. So that helps them out. I don't expect the Red Sox to do anything. And the Blue Jays are the Blue Jays. They'll be in it, I guess. The Rays are always in it. And the Orioles are a powerhouse right now. So I do agree with that. The injuries, of course, yes, it's frequent. 3rd or 4th place, I mean, my 90, you didn't give an official record, but my 92 win record, I would hope that'd be good enough for 3rd or 2nd even, hopefully. But I mean, we'll see. Because last year you had the Orioles, let's see. You had the Orioles winning 101 last year and the Rays 99. So if they were to finish with 92 wins, that would be good for 3rd. So. All right, so with my logic, then they finish in 3rd. Based off last year's standings. At Rio Esti says the same old. Injuries will continue to haunt this team and pitching will once again be subpar. So tired of it, but I don't see it any other way. It's funny how the more pessimistic people never give the actual record. A couple do, but some don't. It's weird. At Keith RI 2022 says, very difficult to predict with this team because there are so many question marks, particularly with the starting rotation. Cole obviously is out, but the guys behind him have been very inconsistent this spring. Yeah, Nestor's been mostly inconsistent. Rodon's been a bit inconsistent. Schmidt's been okay, I guess. But yeah, most of them have had at least their couple of rough starts this spring, I guess. But yeah, it is tough to predict with the rotation especially. It is. I'll give you that. But we could still make the predictions because, again, as of now, nobody's wrong. Hasn't started up yet. All right. Let's go with just a few more here. Got a bunch of replies on this one. At Sling Singapore says 85 and 77. Slight improvement. Hope I'm way off, but no way they catch the O's. The Rays always find a way, and the Jays are on the same approximate page as the Yanks. Well, I think if the rotation hangs in there, because when Cole was in there and not hurt yet, I was saying that I think on paper the Yankees are better than the Blue Jays. But now with Cole being out for the first couple of months, it might have leveled the playing field a little bit. So I can agree with that, I guess. But we'll see. At Live and Ascend says 94 and 68. I think the offense will pick up the slack with Cole out for a while and the starting rotation having some question marks. I think they'll make a move at the deadline to stabilize the rotation when they need to. It'd be nice if they made one around now. Maybe Montgomery. But we'll see. At John Manning BNB says, you're not going to have Cole for 2 months. They were 23 and 10 in his games last year, so cut that down to 13 and 5 at best this year. Okay, that's weird. Given last year's performance and the Soto factor, I'll go with 87 and 75. Third in division, missed the playoffs. 87 would be missing the playoffs. I'd be kind of surprised by that with a third wild card, but okay. But yeah, I cut it down a little bit reasonably so. Not that much, but I cut it down a bit. At Breg Sharbert says 162. Wow, so another 100 wins. Quite a bit of 100-win replies. All right. At NY Spankies 69 says, Cole doesn't play a game all season. All right, that's a little pessimistic as of now. Yanks make the wild card and lose in the divisional series. Soto wins MVP. Nestor is our ace. All right, then. My good friend. Look who is replying. I'm so happy to see this. I did see it in my notifications that a reply was put here. I'm so happy to read this. My good buddy Spencer, at Musician DMD. A couple of weeks ago, I gladly dedicated some time in my show intro to my good buddy here, Spencer. In case you didn't hear it, go back to listen to the episode from a couple of weeks ago. My good buddy Spencer here from Twitter, who I know for years now on here. And I've interacted with his family a great deal the last couple of weeks after this, and it's just been absolutely amazing. What a wonderful family you have, Spencer. You ought to be proud, man. But Spencer lost all of or most of his eyesight, and we're hoping that they find a way for it to come around. But as of now, I believe he's still experiencing it from what I've seen. Apologies, Spencer, if I'm wrong. I also just don't want to pry too badly. You're going through enough. But I've spoken to Spencer's wife, even his daughter, Victoria. Want to give her a shout-out because I have been speaking to her primarily when it comes to Spencer the last few days. And she was the one who left this reply underneath my tweet, which I was so happy to see. But another shout-out to you, Spencer. Love you, man. We were all hoping that you make a recovery with this ordeal that you're going through. There was this thing that Spencer was doing on Twitter when he was getting the Yankees to help him to make it to opening day because he is a long-time season ticket holder, and he humbly requested somebody in the Yankees to help him to still be able to make it to the stadium for opening day with his family. And he is going to be receiving help in doing so, which is awesome, deservedly so. I'm so happy for you, Spence. And I've just received constant reassurance from his family that Spencer is still listening to Yapping Yankees every week and that he loves this show so much. Spencer, I cannot shout you out enough, dude. I can't. The fact that you're going through all this and you're listening to me, of all people, spending time on me, like I always say, who the hell am I? Spending time on me every week, listening to this show. I cannot tell you in words what that means to me, man. I really, really can't. So God bless you, dude. I continue to wish you all the best going forward. Obviously, we will not forget you here. You are a big part of Yapping Yankees, contributing every week to the social media segment. Every week. Huge fan, one of my biggest I cannot give you enough love, dude. So I hope you end up beating this, you get your sight back, and even if you don't, hey, we know you're going to remain strong because you are one of the more positive people I have ever encountered. And that's what I admire most about you. Really good guy with a beautiful family. Doesn't deserve what's happening, but nonetheless, he's taking it in strides and just kicking ass. That's what I always encourage people to do here. What do I say at the end of every episode? Kick life's ass this week, right? That is the epitome of what Spencer does, even amidst going through something that he is right now. So, I am more than happy to read this reply left by Spencer's daughter on behalf of Spencer, saying, "Hi, Mike. My dad thinks the Yankees are going to have a great season. He feels this team will win about 95 games. He feels that the adversity that they faced last year will make them stronger for this year." Spencer, I would expect nothing less out of you. 95 wins, hey, that's where I was before the Cole injury, so it's not too far off from what I think. So I can't combat that too much, but your added optimism is always welcomed. Love to hear from you, man. I'm so happy to see your name pop up in my notifications again. So happy. Thank you so much for spending time, you and Victoria, to reply to this social media segment. It means the world to me, man. To still be listening to me, I can't. It's amazing. Thank you so much, brother, and have all the fun in the world, you and your beautiful family at opening day, really. I'm so glad you're still getting to go despite what you're going through. You deserve it. Have the time of your life, man. All right, let us do a few more. My God, time just keeps on ticking. At Del Space Franco says, feels like 83 and 79. Yikes. At Wally NYY _ says 86 wins. Okay. Some people floating around that area. At G Costria says 96 wins, 66 losses. All right. Let's do like 4 more, I guess, something like that. I think that's a good number. At Rip NYY 2023 says 87 and 73. That does not equal 162 games, my friend. That equals 160. So you're going to have to find 2 more games in there. All right. At Del Griffith 1 says 85 wins, wild card appearance in playoffs, 3 million fans attend, 1.5 million chicken buckets sold. Okay, you don't have to go that in depth. Bro's going the extra mile. Oh my gosh. All right. Final last 2 as always. It's funny. All right, first up is my girlfriend at Vic Salimo saying, with our current condition, I'm going to say possibly 85 and 77. All right, there's some people floating around that, Vic. I can't really combat that too much. I'm at 92, but I mean, hey, they could have that record. I hope it's better than that, though, because 85 would be borderline for playoff appearance, I would think. And given the expectations, that would be a massive disappointment, I would say. Last but certainly not least, as always, my mom, Julia Gina Scudero, says, "Hey, Mike, before Garrett Cole's news of time off already, I was going to say I was hoping they'd win 95 to 100 games. Maybe I'm a bit of a dreamer, but why not? Now, unfortunately, after this, I'm going to say I'm shooting for 90 games winning. Hoping they don't disappoint the way they did last year. Thanks, Mike. Let's go Yankees." All right, so 90 and 72 losses that would be. I'd say that's fair. Only a couple of wins under me, and I think that's reasonable, especially with Cole missing some time. And I think it would still be good enough for a playoff appearance, so it wouldn't be a total failure, obviously. Hopes of winning the World Series, well, I don't know about that. But yeah, I would say that's fair, because I was at 95 before Cole's injury as well. So I don't think that's a bad prediction at all, Mom. Fair enough. So now that this is wrapped up, what was the minimum, and then what was the highest threshold for the wins I think I've heard here? I think I heard as low as 82 and as high as 110 in one of the replies. It's a difference of nearly 30 wins, guys. It's quite the discrepancy. So we'll have to see who's correct. I'm sticking with my official prediction post-Cole news of 92 and 70. Everybody else has got their predictions out there. We will see in late September, early October, what it ends up being after what is likely to be yet another chaotic season, because what isn't, honestly? Especially when it comes to the Yankees. My God, brace for impact, because again, 4 more days, my friends. But for now, that is all for episode 214 of Yapping Yankees today. Guys, as always, if you have not already, please remember to follow me on all social medias. Facebook fan page is Mike Scudero NY. My Twitter or X is at Mike Scudero. And my Instagram is Mike Scuds97. Please remember to subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 platforms it's available on. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Show your love across all 4 of them. And if you have the time, listen to the past Yapping Yankees episodes that you may have missed as well. Episodes 34 all the way up to episode 214 today. Those are all available on YouTube. And if you want to catch any episodes prior to episode 34, all the way up to episode 214 today, well, every Yapping Yankees episode that has ever come out, those are all available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But once again, I would like to thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my friends, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again in 2 Sundays from now on April 7th when I come at you with episode 215 of Yapping Yankees. But until then, guys, as always, hang in there, be patient, stay safe, look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week, like I just mentioned before, as I always say at the end of every episode, my friends. And most of all, let us enjoy this final stretch of spring training and, of course, the start of the 2024 regular season on Thursday, the 28th. And I already cannot wait to talk to you in 2 Sundays all about the games that will officially count. That's what it's about, guys. I cannot wait to get back in front of this microphone in 2 Sundays on April the 7th. But until then, what can I say? Just enjoy regular season baseball, enjoy the hell out of it, and also please be sure that you and your families have a very happy and safe Easter next Sunday. Until the 7th, guys, take care, and for the final time before the season starts, let's go Yanks.